This week, we have the full moon ceremony, which we have every month. The full moon ceremony is a chance for us to examine our commitment to the precepts, the Bodhisattva precepts, the ethical rules for living, our commitment to each other, our commitment to our practice, to examine that honestly. They give us a chance to let go of anything we need to let go of and to start fresh. So we start by discussing a precept and naming any ways we've been out of alignment with that precept. If we need to make amends, this is the time for it. And then we let it go, chanting the release of karma chant. All my ancient twisted karma from beginningless greed, hate, and delusion, born of body, speech, and mind, I now fully avow. And we let it go. We've invited in the support of all the Buddhas and ancestors, so we've invited in each other. We're doing this together, so we're well supported at the time of the full moon ceremony, to be honest. We're well supported to start again. And then we renew our vows. We take our vows together as a Sangha and end by dedicating the merit outwards to the whole universe. So we do this every month, and the time for that is this week. And as we are both discussing the precepts and have the full moon ceremony, this is a good time to talk about repentance, or sangha. Sangha, or repentance, is not about asking someone outside to forgive you. There's nothing outside. If you need to ask forgiveness from a person to whom you've caused harm, then that person is part of the Sangha. They're not outside of ourselves. But in order to come back into harmony with each other, we have to be honest. So repentance requires honestly examining how we've lived our life, honestly evaluating the precepts, and finding some softness for our own mistakes. So that's often the most challenging part for people. But the softness is important because making mistakes is essential to our practice. We all make mistakes. This is our normal human condition. And that's why I started off this talk today by saying a bodhisattva cannot live without repentance. Our practice is determined by our commitment to honesty and to trying again, continuously, without stopping. Repentance helps us to understand compassion for each other and for ourselves. There's that softness that we cultivate when we can learn to recognize our own mistakes, our own times of being out of alignment with how we want to be. Then that gives us more space to recognize and accept that in others. So there's a softness there. So the making repentance allows us to learn compassion. Repentance allows us to develop the mind of awakening, the mind of enlightenment, by letting go of the me. Where we get stuck is usually an attachment to me, or what we call ego, our ideas versus the reality, our ideas of what we think the world should be versus how it actually is, our ideas of what we think others should act like versus how it actually is, our ideas of perfection versus the imperfection of lived life. When we let go of our ideas and we let go of this idea of a you as separate from me, or anything as separate from anything else, then we can allow the mind of enlightenment to shine freely. The practice of Sangha or repentance also allows us to purify our mind. And this is that starting over that I talked about. We get to start fresh. Because once we've made that chant, done prostrations, and vow to let go of our karma, we have to actually let it go. And this gives us a clean start each time. So it's actually quite refreshing, quite wonderful to be able to do this. We're not going to someone else, someone outside of ourselves, to ask for that fresh start. We're taking that fresh start as part of the process of our practice. Oh, only we can do this. We have to make the intention. We have to show up. We have to actually do it. And then we get to start again. So it's quite wonderful. Repentance allows us to let go of the things that trip us up, the things that we call karmic obstructions, which is another way of saying our stuff. So our karmic obstructions, or our things, our stuff, they're just what we have to work with. You know, if we grew up in a home where people expressed anger by yelling, then probably either we adapted that as our own style, or we did the opposite and learned to become really quiet when people yell and to hide. So to show up, we don't have to judge the way that we grew up. It just is. We didn't choose that. But we acknowledge it honestly as what we need to work with, and then we work with it. But this is true for everything. We acknowledge the ways that we've caused harm honestly, and then we make the honest intention to let them go. So taking repentance removes the karmic hindrances of our life. These karmic hindrances, when we don't recognize them and we don't work with them, block our progress or stifle our progress along the path, the Bodhisattva path. And I think this isn't so hard to see. You know, we see these coming up all the time. We think we're doing fine. We're sitting and we are learning to cultivate stillness in our mind. And then something happens with a person because we are all people practicing together. Usually it happens with a person, sometimes with ourselves, with our own minds. Something happens, and those old karmic patterns come up again. Even when we don't think they're here, they surprise us. We can cultivate the ability to see them with a certain softness, even familiarity, and say, ah, there, I recognize you. Okay, I got you. We know how to work with this. We learn to recognize them, then they stop stifling us. But when we don't see them and they take over, then they hold us back. So taking the precepts again with repentance is a way of continuing along the Bodhisattva path, and it takes bravery. It takes bravery to be honest. It takes bravery to acknowledge those things that are part of who we are, that we did nothing to create. The things that we got as perhaps unwelcome gifts from our early life. To practice repentance and letting go of our karmic obstructions, we need to find a good teacher and to actively ask for and follow the teacher's advice. Venerable Shengyen teaches this. Everybody teaches this. But today in particular, I'll speak about Venerable Shengyen. Teaches this, excuse me, often. To find a good teacher is crucial along the path. And what makes a good teacher is experience. Somebody who's done the practice for a long time and encountered different experiences, different people, different types, different obstructions themselves, and learned the Buddhist path in order to teach that. So when we work with a teacher, we have to actively do that, seeking their advice and then taking it. Oh, it's not really catalog that we flip through and, oh no, I don't want that. I don't want that. I don't want that's okay. I'll take that one. I learned this about taking advice from my dear friend and mentor, Diane Banaj Roshi, who taught me that when you go to a teacher for advice, or anyone older for advice, particularly in Japan, then you should not ask for their advice if you don't intend to take it. And that really shook me up. That's so counter to the way I had seen things in the West. You know, in the West, we kind of shop for the right advice. You know, I like, okay, I'm going to ask this person, this person, this person, and this person. And the one that works for me is the one I'm going to take. You take your advice. But the danger of that in terms of Buddhist, and that might work in some situations, you know, but the danger of that in Buddhist practice is, again, our ego, our self coming up, because the one that we like is often the one that prevents us from facing what we most need to face. So find a good teacher, seek advice, and then follow their advice. We don't need advice for everything. In the wealth, the multiplicity of practitioners, of human beings practicing the path, everybody has different things. Some things come very easily for some people and are very challenging for others. And what those things are is different for everyone. Some things that were very, very, very challenging for me and took years and years and years to work through, and I continue to work through them even now, came very simply for other people. So we don't need the teacher's advice for every detail of our life if we're following this. We need it for the places we get tripped up, the places where we're stuck, especially. When we don't follow the teacher's advice, we start to create a wall around me. You know, once I spoke about the zafu as an island, the meditation cushion as our own island. This was from a talk that I heard Maestro Tetsugen Sera give. Our zafu is an island, and when we sit on it, we can kind of want to create a moat around our island. And this island of me becomes very self-protective. So when we pick and choose the advice, or when we do what we want to do without seeking advice, then we start to make a wall that separates us, not only from our teacher and the ability to receive guidance from our teacher, but it separates us from our best selves, who we want to be. It separates us from awakening itself. This guarded, protected wall that we build around ourselves. Everybody does it. So we have to learn to take responsibility for our own actions and for our own hindrances. Not so easy. It takes work. It takes a lot of bravery. It takes the support of Sangha, of the community of practitioners, the support of a teacher, and the support of the teachings. These are called the three treasures: Buddha, is our own practice, our Zazen practice, and the teacher, Dharma, is the teachings passed on to us for thousands of years, and Sangha, the community of practitioners. These are the three treasures. And when we make vows, we make a vow to honor the three treasures, Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. And we make a vow not to disparage the three treasures, Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. We need the three treasures to wake up. We can't edit out what we like, what we don't like. We need the whole package. When we understand that we belong to each other, when we understand that we only exist in relationship to each other, then we feel a very deep and genuine remorse when we've caused harm, when we're honest, when we have that bravery and we've faced what we've done, we've allowed our mind to settle through Zazen and are able to see honestly, then we have a genuine remorse for the harm that we've caused. This remorse gives us a feeling of humility. I'm not so special after all. I'm just like everyone else. I mess up. I cause harm. We've all felt this. And now that you feel it, the flip side of it is probably really close at hand right now. When you feel that remorse, what else comes up? Shame or blame. These are not helpful to you. Facing these takes bravery as well. Shame, the feeling, not that I did something harmful, but the feeling that I am bad. Do you see the difference? Blocks us from waking up. We are inherently Buddha, awakened one. So this idea that there's something that's inherently bad in us blocks us. And it's a very self-focused idea. This me, I'm bad, I'm terrible. And yet it's so compelling. It's so compelling when we're in it. And shame is the flip side of the same thing. Blame is the flip side of the same thing. You are bad. You make me uncomfortable. And we often flip on that side when we've done something that needs repair. Well, if you weren't so loud, I wouldn't have had to do that. If you weren't so annoying, if you weren't so stupid, I wouldn't have had to talk to you that way. We blame the other person for what we did. Who here has never done that? And yet you can see how it blocks us from connection. And isn't connection what we most want? Repentance takes genuine introspection. And to have genuine introspection, we have to get our ego out of the way. And we do this through Zazen practice, through living our life in a way that's less focused on me as separate from you and more focused on relationship. In Zazen, we sit, we follow our breath, we let our thoughts settle, and we start to see more clearly what's in front of us. Sometimes that's quite daunting. Whoa, I didn't know I had so much anger. Oh my goodness. Whatever your particular thing is. I didn't know I had so much sadness. It can be surprising. And again, practice takes bravery, and we have the support of the three treasures to do it. So in this introspection, we start to see the causes of our behavior, not our ideas anymore, because we are letting go of those ideas. And we start to see the causes, the reasons that things arise, or the cause of things, that things arise, which is our actions, our body, our speech, and our thoughts. These are why we do the things out of body, speech, and mind. So we start to see the causes, and we start to recognize the truth, and we recognize our own faults, our own areas of work, without the blame and the shame that's so focused on me. We just see what needs to be done. If we cause harm to our friend and feel a genuine sadness, then we very naturally want to come back into connection. Wanting to come back into connection gives us the motivation to make repair, maybe to apologize, to be honest about it. And when we find that connection again, it's such a relief. Not only do we get to connect, to come back into the family of Sangha, but we get a bonus. When we have conflict and we make repair and we come back into connection, our relationship actually deepens. Trust increases. It's counter to what we thought. Maybe we thought, oh, they'll never like me again, so I should back off. But the reality is, when we face our fear, face our karma, our hindrances, face the ways that we're out of alignment with who we want to be, and address that with bravery, without ego, then we get a deepening of relationship. And it's beautiful. We increase trust in each other. And that in turn helps us in our practice. It increases trust in the practice, and it gives us more support for all of the hard work that we need to do. Practice can be hard. Practice is hard. I'm not going to soften it for you. I started to, but I'll back off from that. Practice is hard. And it's so worth it. When we understand that we belong to each other and we work together, we create this beautiful universe that we dream of together. I highlighted a passage from Venerable Shungyun's book called Attaining the Way, and I'd like to share that with you. Introspection is not easy. It's rare that we can recognize our own faults. Being self-centered, we usually blame others or the environment, and we see ourselves as victims. This leads to conflict with others, which increases mutual vexations. Swamped by our own delusions, we truly live in an ocean of suffering. Buddha Dharma teaches us that through enlightenment, we are liberated from the ocean of suffering and arrive at the other shore of wisdom. Therefore, practicing well requires constant introspection in order to see oneself clearly. From the subsequent sense of remorse comes genuine repentance. Being unable to recognize one's faults shows deeply rooted self-centeredness. We all We all have greed, hatred, and delusion. We all have destructive self-criticism to one degree or another. If we hold strongly to our ways, it'll be so difficult to give rise to true humility. Without true humility, there is no remorse and no repentance. So to move forward, there must first be self-recognition. And you can only accomplish this yourself. Nobody else can make you honestly recognize your own hindrances. Only you can do that. And you have all the support you need. We have the practice, the teachers, we have the body of teachings, and we have the support of the community. In other words, the three treasures, Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, right here for us. We cannot live without causing harm. It's not possible. Therefore, on the Bodhisattva path, we cannot live without repentance, genuine repentance. And the wonderful thing is, not only is it possible, not only are we supported, but genuine repentance actually brightens our life and really helps us along the path. It brightens our relationships. It gives us a better outlook on our days, and it gives us a way to be in this life as an active participant, not someone watching from the outside. So this week is the full moon ceremony. I encourage you all to participate. We'll be on Wednesday evening at 8 p.m. Participate fully, with honesty, with genuine remorse for any harm you might have caused, completely disregarding any invented ideas you have about what harm you might have caused, and starting over. Thank you. Today is the